told me I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the fear situations that I've had as well. But first I want to just talk a little bit about why we wanted to do this workshop. I think every single person in the room can relate to fear in our life that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with stuttering. And I thought it would just kind of be a neat experience to talk about everyday fears that people have, and then talk about how that does tie into the stuttering experience. So we kind of sort of have some objectives, and I'm a little more anal perhaps than Patrice, but when we were putting the proposal together, I really wanted to make sure that we covered what we said our program would. So we're going to basically be talking about what are we afraid of, why we get stuck and sometimes choose to stay stuck, and what can we do. And our goal is going to be to kind of talk a little bit, but facilitate lots of audience participation if we can. So my story, some of you may have heard my story a little bit last year. The two greatest fears that I have had have been to allow myself to stutter publicly. That was why I chose to be covert for well over 30 years, and also to show myself as a person with emotions. I never ever allowed my emotional side to come out publicly because I was fearful of how people would react, or fearful that people would think that I was weak. And kind of the same thing with the stuttering. So I found over the last 3 years that I have found ways to push past some of that. It's not certainly always been easy, but I found that just by giving myself permission to stutter publicly, give myself permission to show that I'm a human being that does have feelings and that it's okay for them to come out. People can relate, I think, to that genuine sharing. So that's what I have set out. I've made a conscious decision that was more or less propelled by a defining moment 3 years ago. But I've just made the decision that I'm not going to hide anymore. And the fearful situations that I find in my life, I've learned from some of them, and we want to be able to find out collectively how we all have been able to do things like that, and see how we can make fear, which we often think of as a barrier, actually make it into a positive. So that's my little story, and we're gonna turn it back over to Patrice, and we're gonna do some audience participation. We hope.